Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Alex and today I want to show you some more about the car I have. This one is the W107. It started its life as a 450 SLC in January 1974, so it has some age to it. I want to tell you what I've already done to this car. It never was my intention that it became like this, but it did, due to the rust issues. So I started out and eventually it became far worse than I thought it would. So let me show you where I started. I thought it wasn't that bad, but when I removed the front fender, I discovered all kinds of holes behind here, because this was all open. So when you drive through rain or mud or whatever, it just comes here, sits here, and you all know mud attracts water, so that sits here for I don't know how long, and then just starts rusting. So you have a protective layer, but if it gets punctured in some way, you get blisters, and those blisters are just rust. It also goes on the top and all the way to the back. So I had to repair all those holes with pieces of new metal, and only this part alone took me several weeks to restore and get everything closed again. You might say that this part doesn't belong to the car. Well, you're right, because the SLC car stopped being produced in the beginning of the 80s, but the SL type from the mid-80s had this addition. I think at Mercedes they also thought that this was a good part to install to prevent all the rust issues all the previous cars had. So I just went to the dealership and ordered those two and installed them, and they fitted perfectly. The original car only had a little plate sitting here, so the whole inner fender wasn't protected. So after I was done the front piece, I came to this part over here. Here sits the water collector. So it collects all the water coming from the front window. It comes in here. You have this little hole here. There it goes in. Also here, it goes under. If you feel here, all the way to this point, you can feel double steel plate split it, and that causes another rust issue. So even if the water gets down in this part, you have the collector here and on the inside there are a lot of seams and they are not closed. So I had to cut this open and work from the inside and close all the seams that were on top, because water can creep everywhere. Close that up, and also on the bottom Here you can see perfectly how this car is built. Everything is double plated and just spot welded. It's everywhere around the car. But with two plates only spot welded, water can creep in between and just start rusting. If you think about it, the car was doomed right from the start. After I worked my way down from here, I was here. This whole corner wasn't there because of the rust issues. I had to refabricate it from new steel plate and welding, and it took me some time. And I worked my way down onto the seal. The rust has eaten the floor plates inside of the car, so the whole line until the back was renewed with new steel plate. Then I came on the back on this corner. You see the SLC has a rear window, and behind here you have a water collector too, made up in the same style as on the front. So I had to work my way from the inside to seal it all up from the inside, and repaired the whole corner that was over here because this wasn't there. I made a new water channel for the collector because the original one that sat inside of the seal was only a bent steel plate in the shape of a tunnel, and was only spot welded on several places and was just leaking. So I had to replace that with a pipe. But because of the car leaking from so many points, and you are driving the car back and forth, water just spreads out over the whole floor and goes in every corner and just start rusting. Also behind the wheel you have the beam, it goes onto an arch behind the wheel, was also rusted. Came to the back, this whole corner wasn't there. I did the whole wheel arch, just de-rusting, repainting and clear coated it. Came to the back, this part, everywhere there were holes. On the bottom also holes, everything is repaired. Back of the car, it's the same story. All the rubber grommets were missing, so water could just enter and just start rusting. So the underside of the car, also been working on that too. So that's been done. The whole rear subframe was dismounted, so I could reach all the rust spots that were under the car. So that became another job to do. You can see everything is new again. Fuel pumps, filters, all the connections, all the hoses. The rear differential has also been changed because original the 450 has a 307 ratio, and I searched for another differential that has a 265 ratio because that fits better with the 560 engine. So here's another shot on the side of the car. The grommets are back in place. So the rear trunk was a separate problem because of the rear window leaking. So I had to clean out the whole rear, dismounted the gas tank, cleaned it out also, repainted everything on the inside. You cannot see that now because of all the parts. Also the boot lid. It also has an isolated inside. It's called bitumen. It's sound deadening. But now, due of the weight, if you just close it, it just closes by itself. It sounds like a tank. This is the inside of the car. It's a horrible color. It's green. Real 70s. So I don't like that. I knew that right from the start. So that's going to be black, of course. It's more convenient. So I have those two seats already. Those are the Recaro C Classics. So they're gonna be in here. Have to refurbish the rear seats, added headrests to it because the SLC doesn't have this option. But I think it's better with headrests on the back. Next part I wanted to show you is this front. Everything came off the car, is de-rusted, repainted. As you can see over here. All the parts are there to get the ABS system running, like a 560 SL has. Everything new or repainted. So the rust issue in the engine bay became more clear and I started dismounting all of those pieces. Because you have the beam from the car that goes into an arch and then goes down. But I discovered that all of those black grommets, they were gone. So if you drove through the rain, water gets into the beams and starts rusting from the inside out. Also, if you pressure wash the engine, you just spray it right into the car. It was ridiculous. Also on the other side, I don't know, Mercedes pressed this into the beam. I don't know what kind of function it has, but it's a really big hole. So if water gets into that, down there, you get rust from the inside. I've seen a lot of these cars, those beams are just rusted out. So I searched for all kinds of rubber grommets to fill in the holes. Even where the shock absorber sits. Water can go in here and goes inside of the car and just rust. And it's supposed to come out here, but it doesn't. It just stays down there and just rust. You can also see this line, it's steel plates meeting up together. It's a perfect spot for water to sit and rust. Somebody wasn't thinking when designing this car. I don't know, it's strange. Rubber sitting all the way over there. Normally the battery sits there. But over time the rubber gets disconnected from the car, so you get air between, and with a combination of water, of course, you get rust. But you get rust on spots you normally don't see, so it's behind the window wiper engine. You have to dismount it to see it. So, of course, I did all that, discovered rust, repaired it, and did new bitumen on this. This is gonna stick. All the new brake lines are in place. Yeah, so really strange how they designed all that. But when rebuilding everything up, I decided that water should find another way instead of going through the car, because I didn't want to weld another year again on this car, because water flows through it and hangs up somewhere and starts rusting again. So not for me. So I closed most of the holes up, and if water just comes there, it has to find another way to go outside of the car down and not inside anymore. Other parts I have for this car, because I think the model is cool, but the wheels are not. So since I like the Borbet A style, I have this made. These are the refurbished Borbet A. So they polished the rims itself, it's clear coated, and the star itself is the color of the car. Also added flat caps instead of the Borbet caps. You have like a fake nut in the middle, so that's ugly. The way they are now fits better. And finally we have the engine for this car again. Let me show you what I have done to make it fit into the car, because the 300 horsepower engine was only made for the W126, so they have to start with, they have a different oil pan, so I had to search that from another car, of course, but that's there. Reused the engine mounts from the original engine. It's the same fit. This engine was rebuilt from the ground up, so the whole inside was cleaned. All the charcoal gone. It has new piston rings around the pistons. And all other seals I've done, but the most work is always in the heads. all these new parts. You have the chain that's going down, so all the sprockets are renewed, because otherwise you have this line here and over here. So if these are old parts, those two stripes don't line up because of the wear of the engine. But now everything is new and those two stripes are exactly equal. New water pump, thermostat. Also going to install the newer type of air conditioning. Most people know, because the old one is bigger, heavier and not easy to replace. And this one is easier to work on. Also did the alternator, I see now. I don't know why, because I cannot use this. It says way too low on amps. So that needs to be replaced by a bigger one. That's also a custom job, because Mercedes doesn't build higher ones than this. It also had another oil filter that came with the oil pan, because the 560, this engine, the 300 horsepower, has a separate oil cooler, but the 450 SLC, they all also had this, so I can reuse this part. I just connected it, re-thread it. Initially I thought about using the gearbox that comes along with it, but that created another problem, because in this car the electronics don't work, and the gearbox that was originally in it had a mechanical cluster. So you have a cable going up, while the gearbox for this engine don't have that kind of options. But still, when I thought of it, I came with the plan to upgrade the gearbox also. So I have to search for a bell housing on the back from a W140, and also its gearbox. And I can order on the internet the ECU to control that gearbox. So I don't need the car anymore to get this running. If I have all those components, this car can work. But you see, you have an idea and eventually everything goes another way. I also skimmed the car on the side, because people know there's a strip going along the car for bumping, but it's also a cause of rust, as you all know. So I removed that and welded all the holes. But in the future, this is not a daily driver, so I don't think anybody bumps into this car with doors. So when this car is done, I also want to give it like a body kit from the company of Zender. The front bumper I already have, but I'm still searching for the rear bumper, and the plates that goes on the sides of it. That's really rare. And then paint it in the original color, and then just enjoy my work. If you like what I do, subscribe to the channel, push the like button, always appreciate that. And until the next video, thank you for watching, bye.